Good. All right, thank you. Welcome. This is the Jordan School District Board of Education General Session. Today is Tuesday, November 30th. And with us today, we have board members Atwood, Dunford, Miller, Richards, and Young. We have board member George joining us electronically tonight. Nikki, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you.
Great. And then we would like to excuse Mr. Robinson tonight. Also with us is Mr. Van Coleman, our superintendent, Dr. Godfrey, associate superintendent, Mr. Anderson, and our business administrator, Mr. Larson. We would like to welcome all of those who are here with us tonight, our employees and students and members of the community who are joining us both here in person and watching the stream online. Welcome. We hope you all had a great Thanksgiving and a great couple of days off of school and are ready to be back. We are so excited tonight to have Valley High School here with us. Yes. We are going to first of all have the Pledge of Allegiance and flag ceremony, and this will be led by Matthew Cruz and Ethan Cruz from Valley High School. Then we will have the Reverence by Randall White, a teacher at Valley. And then we will have a Celebrating Schools presentation by Xenia Rose Quinones, who is a student body officer, and also Kylie Crossman. So we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand while we recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated.
Good evening. Twice each day, once at 10 a.m. and at 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon, we strive to have our students pause at the beginning of their class period and do a brief guided emotional and mental reset before proceeding with the rest of their educational day. We call it our mindful pause, and I invite you for the next moment to briefly experience what that is like. Begin by getting comfortable. Close your eyes or have a soft gaze downward and relax. Gently move your attention away from what you're thinking to the sensations in your body. Now relax into your breath. Feel your breath as you take a deep breath in and as you let that deep breath out. Take another deep breath in, and then gently let that deep breath out, letting your breath soften and soothe you from the inside out. Now, as you let your breathing return to a normal, natural rhythm, thoughts, images, and sensations will come and they will go. Allow positive thoughts such as, I am enough, I have a choice, and I can do this, wash through you. Take another breath in, and then let that breath out. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes or lift your gaze. Welcome to your evening, and remember, together we are stronger.
Thank you. That was great. I might need to pop by Valley every day for that. Okay, Celebrating Schools.
I'm Xenia and this is Kylie, and we're going to talk about our experience at Valley. And I just want to say that I'm really grateful for Valley, because Valley has given me the chance to get back on track and be able to graduate, because when I moved states from Arizona to Utah, I lost a lot of my credits because all of my transcripts didn't transfer. So I had to go to Valley, but Valley's been very helpful because sometimes life gets crazy and you just need to take a step back, and Valley's been very willing to work with me. And since I was so behind on all my credits, I got caught up, and now I have the chance to graduate early in second quarter. And I'm also going to go to SLIC for geology.
I'm also really appreciative for Valley. I am also kind of in shock right now. I just want to share a little bit about my background and my personal experience in becoming a Valley student. So pretty much from a young age, I've suffered with both physical and mental health issues. They caused me to fall behind in school, get behind, and I worked really hard to try to get back caught up to where I need to be. And I started to get really frustrated with myself when nothing I seemed to do was working. I also was frustrated with my boundary school. I was brushed off as too young to have real problems, and I was not taken seriously. My parents had to get involved in trying to make sure that my 504 plan was followed. And so that caused me a lot of stress, and I eventually almost completely stopped going to school. Once I went back to school after a little while, it was really stressful, and I was really overwhelmed with all of the anxiety and struggles that you have in that normal everyday high school life. So after sharing with therapists and doctors and things like that about what I was going through and what my struggles with the school were, they actually referred me to Valley. And I was really nervous to go to Valley because obviously there's a lot of stereotypes that come with Valley. But those are not true, I'll tell you that much. But pretty much, I just want to say I wouldn't be where I am right now. I didn't think that I was going to graduate at my boundary school. I didn't have any hope for my future, and it completely shattered my self-esteem. I'm now a straight-A student. I'm on our school's leadership team and a head editor for our school's newspaper. I plan on going to culinary school after an early graduation, and I finally feel successful as myself, as my own person, that I actually am getting somewhere in life, and I wouldn't be where I am, and I wouldn't be speaking here today if I didn't come to Valley and I didn't have the teachers that care for me as if I was their own child. And so I just am extremely grateful for that, and that's all.
Thank you and great job. I love Valley High School. You just walking through the halls, you feel love and support just being there. It is a very special place. Can we have everyone who's involved with Valley, I know our principal, assistant principal are here. Anyone involved with the administration or students, will you stand up? Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. We'd like to have the students come up and shake our hands, and we've got a pin for you. You can just come and start at this end. Thank you so much. Again, we just very much appreciate Valley High School and all they do for our students. And you are welcome to stay to this meeting if you want to, but we're not offended if you walk out also.
Miss Miller, President Miller, can I
Yes.
just make a statement really quickly?
Yes, please.
I just want you to know that, like you, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't in Valley High School. I am an alumni of Valley High School, and I would not be the person that I am, the mother that I am. So you can do hard things and improve of that.
Thank you. This is a good board meeting. We were relaxed. Now we're crying. Thank you all. And we will next move to our resolutions of appreciation. Ms. Richards.
Whereas dedicated service to Jordan School District was faithfully and effectively performed, whereas they consistently and conscientiously executed their responsibilities with integrity, honesty, and loyalty, be it therefore resolved that the Jordan School District Board of Education and District Administration declare appreciation for the outstanding service that was performed in the cause of public education, and hereby express our sorrow at the death of these valued friends. Mary Jean Bateman, Pitcher, Nutrition Services. Barbara Ann Jacot, Teacher. Robert D. Darrell Day, Teacher, Counselor, and Administrator. Marlon Alma Fairborn, Teacher and Administrator. Sandra Ray Smith Hash, Clerical Support. Michael Anthony Makaimuku, thank you. Bus driver. Donna Bell Steenblick Rogers, Secretary. And Jacqueline Barnett Steenick, Special Education Assistant.
Thank you. All right, recognitions. Do any board members have any recognitions they would like to make tonight?
I have a,
Okay, Ms. George, go ahead.
sorry, it's hard to tell when I'm interrupting. I have had such a great couple of weeks attending different events. Really impressed with the caliber of some of our students. So just a quick shout out to the Copper Hills High School Fiddler on the Roof. It was a great production, as well as Sunset Ridge Middle School's play. Both of them were really fun. They did Matilda. And then I was just so touched by the Veterans Day celebrations that happened around the district, and appreciative of teachers and administrators who have taken the time to really teach patriotism in their schools. So just wanted to make those comments.
Thank you. I'd like to recognize Ms. Whitroper's 5th grade class from South Jordan Elementary. They had the opportunity, they were invited up to the state capitol by Representative Pulsifer for a special day up at the Capitol, and I was able to join them for part of that. They had a mock legislative session. They actually sat in the chamber and voted on bills. And it was fascinating. I mean, the students did such a great job. They learned very quickly how to amend a bill. One of the bills they were debating was the length of the school day, and there was a proposal to amend it and make the school day longer, and it got amended multiple times. At one point in time, the school day was only a minute long, and I was getting nervous, but in the end, the students voted to keep it the same length that it is right now. So it was a great discussion, but what was really exciting for me to see was then I went back a few weeks later for their We the People contest and judged that, and we have a few schools across our district that do We the People, and it is a great program that helps the students truly understand our history and the Constitution and our government, and being able to judge that and seeing the connection that those students made to the legislative process. I mean, they understood the legislative process so much better because they actually experienced it up at the Capitol. It was just such a great experience, and just thrilled for those students that they had that experience, and Ms. Whitroper for providing that for them, and Representative Pulsifer also. And then also just a shout out to Jackie Webster, the Beverly Taylor Sorensen Art Specialist at East Lake Elementary, who does a thriller assembly every year for the 6th graders that all dance in that. So much fun. Anybody else? Okay, Superintendent, any recognitions from you?
Yes, I'd just like to acknowledge Education Support Professionals Day on November 17th. That's ESP Day. The acronym, as I said, stands for Education Support Professionals, and they live up to that name. They're a great support, very professional, and make the work that we do as a district possible, quite literally. Kevin Sprague has been honored as the Utah School Employees Association Outstanding Employee of the Year for the state, and will be representing us at the national level. I can't think of a better person to represent us, and I'm excited to see how that goes for him. And on that day, on ESP Day, there was a press conference for him at Mountain Ridge, where he's the head custodian, and that was really exciting. On that day, I also had the chance to meet with some of our employees in each of the job families within our education support professionals. And it was really fun in one day to just travel around and see the scope of the work that is done, and talk with them about how things are going. I was able to visit with the warehouse, out at a school with our administrative assistants, information systems or bus drivers, clerical, cafeteria. Our nutrition services workers had a Thanksgiving meal prepared for students on that day. I talked with Bob, one of our mechanics, that was, we talked about supply chain for some of the parts that they're trying to get, and it's just really tremendous, the scope of the work they do and the quality employees that we have working to support education in this district. Our ESP employees do an incredible job, and so I just want to give a shout out to every single one of them. Classroom assistants, just everybody who helps. I went to Kari Sue Hamilton School and met with classroom assistants, and we talked for a moment, and we had a photo, and they got right back to work. They had a lot to do. Every group I met with was, just had a lot to do. They were great to pause to talk with me, but I was really overwhelmed at, like I said, what great professionals we have and the importance of the work they do, and I'm very appreciative of each one of them.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go on to our consent agenda now. Can I get a motion to approve?
Are there any comments, Violet?
I didn't see any here. Can I get a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D.
A second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve consent agenda items A through D by Ms. Atwood and a second by Ms. Richards. I'd also just like to point out that aside from the regular board minutes and licenses, there are amendments to the trust land plans for Jordan Hills Elementary and Riverton High School. Is there any discussion to that motion? Okay, all in favor of approving the consent agenda items, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? That motion passes unanimously. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda items A through E?
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept consent agenda items A through E.
Second.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Atwood, second by Ms. Richards to accept the consent agenda items A through E. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion
Can I make a
passes
comment,
unanimously.
President
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
There are no non-compliance report issues this month. I assume if it's not there, there were none that came in.
There should be one posted on there. It was posted today.
Okay.
There was one at the state level.
Thank you. But even that, I'm a little puzzled, and I'm reaching out to the community. If you have attended board meetings and listened to public outcry, sometimes you get the impression that everything's falling apart in our district. When the public comes and there's a problem here, and this school has a problem, and that school has a problem, we've opened up an avenue to actually say, what are the problems? In which classroom? With which teacher? What happened? So that we can investigate. And in this entire year, I think we've had 6 come in. And so to me, I find it puzzling that in board meetings, there seems to be a level of discontent, and yet when we ask for what are the areas of non-compliance, we're getting no reports coming in. So I just raised that as a curious issue, that other than one that came from the state, not one teacher filed I have a concern with something that happened in a classroom. So either things are great, or parents aren't availing themselves of this board reaching out to saying, what are the issues that are going on? I find that curious, that we've created a number of avenues to hear from people to say what's broken so that we can look into fixing it, and we didn't have a single non-compliance other than one that came from the state level. I just want to raise that.
Thank you. All right, we have 4 bids to approve tonight. Can I get a motion for the first bid, A?
I'll make a motion for the bid for custodial services kitchen vent hood cleaning.
Second? I'll look at Ms. Richards. Okay, motion by Ms. Atwood, second by Ms. Richards to approve the custodial services bid for kitchen vent hood cleaning. Sounds like a fun job. Any discussion to that motion? Okay, this is a contract that goes over 5 years. I'm wondering if it takes 5 years to get them all cleaned. All right, all in favor of approving that bid, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. Can I get a motion? Let's take B and C together.
I'll make the motion to approve bids B and C, furniture, classroom furniture and office furniture for the new Hammond Elementary School.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the bids for, I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Richards, second by Mr. Dunford to approve the bids, the 2 bids for new classroom and office furniture for the new elementary school being built in Harriman. Is there a discussion to that motion?
I have a question. I am assuming that we're doing this because of the backlog of shipping, and yet we haven't named a principal. Is that correct?
We did name a principal.
Okay, so I just missed that. I just want to make sure the principal was involved, because I know this is a very personal decision to say, I really want this equipment for this function, and that was my only concern is.
We chose Rana Hoffman a year in advance so that we could use her expertise in the district office for a semester, and then
Okay,
she'll be opening the new school starting
that was
next
my,
month.
I understand the need to start ordering now. I just wanted to make sure that
She was directly
local eyes have seen the plan, and that's the furniture I want.
She was directly involved in all of this.
That's all I need to know.
And this is split into two bids because there's some furniture is coming from one vendor and some furniture from another vendor, so we're approving two different bids there. All right, any more discussion to the bid? All right, all in favor of approving the new the costume and furniture for the new elementary school in Harriman, please say yes.
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 Anyone opposed? That passes unanimously. And now can I get a motion for bid D?
I'll make a motion to approve the Fort Harriman Middle School Chromebooks and licenses.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Atwood, second by Ms. Richards to approve Chromebooks and licenses for the Fort Harriman Middle School. Is there any discussion to that bid? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Anyone opposed? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. We are now on to our patron comment section. The Board of Education encourages public engagement and values input from our residents, students, and employees. Although not required to do so by law, the board sets aside time monthly to hear from patrons. The board will not take public comment on personnel issues or statements regarding the character, professional competence, or physical or mental health of an individual during board meetings. The board does not discuss issues that are not on the meeting's agenda. The board may ask staff to follow up on issues raised or may address them at a future meeting. Silence by the board on an issue does not suggest support or opposition of the message given. The board will take public comment at this time on items not listed on the agenda. We do have several items on the agenda that we will also take public comment on. And we will hear in-person comments first, followed by comments received electronically. Both will get a maximum of 3 minutes for that. And we have one that is signed up tonight in person and then one electronically. So when you're called to the podium, just please state your name and we will have Becky Rendell.
Hi, I'm Becky Rendell. I'm a resident of Jordan District and a teacher in Jordan District, and I also serve on the JEA board. I usually listen online, but today I'm here in person to stand up and thank you for your hard work and thank you for serving the children of our community.
Thank you. Mr. Larson for our electronic comment.
Is Jessica Rathal. Hello, my husband and I both work for Jordan District and we are in the process of adopting a child. We have struggled with infertility for years and after a long and stressful process, we have finally been matched with a child. Our baby is due in March, and when I inquired about leave with HR, I discovered that the district's policies for maternity leave are different for biological mothers versus adoptive mothers. The page on maternity leave, policy DP 380, says, benefit eligible employees shall be paid for contract days which the employee would otherwise have under the contract to work during the 6-week maternity leave. While the page on adoption says adoptive mothers must use 20 accumulated sick leave days at the time of actual custody of the child. In short, adoptive parents receive fewer leave days than biological parents, and adoptive parents' leave days are subtracted from sick days while biological parents are not. When I followed up with the leave specialist at the district office, she admitted that there was a differentiation in the policies, but that there was nothing I could do to receive equitable leave. I understand I will not be physically recovering from labor, but I will have the same need to bond with and care for my newborn as a biological mother would have. Frankly, I feel the policy discriminates against parents like us who struggle with infertility. After enduring the emotional ups and downs of infertility treatments and the stress and costs of adoption, receiving a shorter and more costly maternity leave than other mothers is disheartening, to say the least. We should be able to receive the same leave whether we have a biological child or not. Though I am concerned that I am not getting the same leave as other mothers in the district, I am concerned for future adoptive parents in the district who could encounter the same stressful situation. This is an issue that should be discussed, if not in time for my leave, then for any future adoptive parents in the district. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we are on to our special business items. First up, we will have a... Okay. So should we move... I'm going to go to B then, special business item B. And that is a recommendation to approve proposed updates to administrative policy DP 380, maternity and parent leave. Dr. Godfrey, did you have anything to cover on this policy?
Nothing to add. There's been previous discussion and review of a minor change to language that provides additional flexibility in unique circumstances.
Okay, thank you. And this has been discussed in a couple of previous study sessions. Can I get a motion to approve this policy?
I make the motion to approve policy DP 380, maternity parent leave.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Richards and second by Mr. Dunford. Is there any discussion to the policy? Okay, and this is a policy that went in effect starting last year, and this is just a minor wording change that allows for a medical exemption to the 6 weeks consecutive language. Is there any input from the public regarding this policy change? Okay, seeing none, let's take a vote. All in favor to approve proposed updates to administrative policy DP 380, maternity and parent leave, please say yes.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Next up is a recommendation to approve board policy GP 109, construction of the agenda. We have discussed this in multiple study sessions and made a few wording changes. The significant change is how to get an item on the agenda, and that's by written request to any member of the executive committee. It used to say second vice president, but now it is executive committee. And then we removed the levels, the 1, 2, 3, 4 levels, and just put in that the time frame would be specified. Those were the major changes to the policy. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve changes to board policy GP 109.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Dunford, second by Ms. Richards to approve. It's been used so many times, I just was in the habit now. Motion by Mr. Dunford, second by Ms. Atwood to approve board policy GP 109, construction of the agenda. Is there any discussion to that motion? All right, any public input on this policy change? All right, seeing none, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? And that motion passes unanimously. We will now go on to Board Policy GP 110, public participation at board meetings. Mr. Dunford.
We, as a board, have watched an interesting phenomenon happen over the last several months and years with COVID. And there seems to be several people who are not residents of the school district who are coming and taking time to address this board. And while we want to hear anyone who wants to speak to this board, we want to give priority to those who live within the boundaries of the district. So this is a policy change that says we would like to hear from in our open public comment period from residents of the district, parents of students in the district, teachers from the district, those who have a vested interest in this district. So that's the main change we're making here. We're giving the president a little bit of leeway. Up to 3 minutes will be given, but that would allow the president on a night where multiple people would like to speak to adjust that time period. We do want to hear from the public. It's very important to this board that we hear from the public. But we believe that our residents and parents of our students, teachers in our district, those who have a vested interest in this particular district be given a priority. And so those are the changes that we're proposing.
Thank you. Can I get a motion?
I move that we approve the proposed changes to Board Policy GP 110.
And I will second.
Okay, a motion by Mr. Dunford, second by Ms. Richards to approve Board Policy GP 110. Is there any discussion to that motion? All right, any public input on that? Okay, seeing none, we will vote. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. And any opposed? That motion passes unanimously.
President Miller, with that motion passing, we are now asking the public to provide information that verifies that they are residents of the district. Several members of this board have expressed a nervousness that we have a piece of paper out for everyone to see that lists personal names and addresses. Therefore, I move that we direct the superintendent and the business administrator to, from here on out, provide for an electronic sign-up process that would allow people to sign up to address the board and without revealing personal information to everyone.
Okay, so that's a motion to direct the superintendent to provide an electronic sign-up option so that we can capture addresses. Oh, can I get a second for that?
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Dunford, second by Mr. Young. Any board discussion to that? Okay, all in favor, please say yes.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Any questions, Superintendent, on that?
No, thank you.
Can I just add that we might want to be able, or we will want to update the posters and information on the website as far just everything matches up.
Yes, that is a very good suggestion there too.
We'll take care of that.
And do they need to be physically present to sign up with this new program, or will they be able to do that virtually at some point?
The plan would,
According to our policy, they can sign up to speak now by calling the superintendent's office during the day or any time leading up to board meeting to be put on the list. So that will stay the same.
So they'll still need to call. They can't do it like a virtual sign up on the program.
Right. You're right. They would either need to come here in person to do it or call and do it.
Okay, thanks.
And then the option to give comments electronically is still the same. Okay, so we've got direction to update website and posters.
we'll take care of that. Thank you.
Okay. keep going?
Yes, our guests were told 7:30, so we expect them about then.
Okay. All right. Our next item is our superintendent's report. Dr. Godfrey.
I just wanted to report as well on the Elk Ridge Middle School Veterans Day concert on November 11th. I was invited to attend. It was outstanding. They had the advanced band, orchestra, choir, and dance students all perform. It was a 1-hour performance, highly coordinated, highly patriotic, and I came out of there very proud.
Here, here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now it is time for committee reports and comments by board members. I know we have a few committee reports. Who wants to start tonight? You want to start with government relations?
So, Government Relations has met to discuss our legislative priorities and took into consideration all of the wonderful suggestions that all the board members had. And we talked about it and thought, what if we tried a bit of a different approach from simply creating almost a shopping list of these are the things we want or need, and maybe focus more on the fundamental overarching issue. And so what we put together is just an overall statement of belief and of what things we will support and what things we won't support. The committee had a chance to look this over and edit the document. I will say that it wasn't unanimous in the approval of this. Some committee members chose not to contribute, and so I can't say that all gave their formal approval or agreement to this document, but so I just want, in full disclosure, want to make sure that that's clear, and I'll give out a couple of these for, if you want to take one and pass them down. As soon as everyone gets a copy, I will read it out. But the majority of the board or the committee did look it over and express their approval for this. Nikki, I emailed you a picture of this.
I have it. Thank
Okay.
you for thinking of that.
Yeah. So, and we'll get this. This is just the rough draft before we really clean it up and make it look presentable. Just wanted to make sure everyone was in agreement with the overarching statement. And so we start with the Jordan School Board mission, which is students in the Jordan School District will reach their potential to achieve academically, prosper economically, and contribute responsibly to society. And then our statement is the Jordan School District Board of Education recognizes that in order to fulfill its mission, the district must have skilled, professional, and well-supported teachers, educational support professionals, and administrators. The demands and pressures placed on our employees has reached unprecedented levels in the past few years. They have risen to the occasion and are in desperate need of considerable support. As elected officials of the same communities, each board member looks forward to working with our legislative representatives during the 2022 legislative session to ensure our employees receive that support. The board can best provide that support to our employees with local control and funding flexibility. The board will support those legislative efforts that will empower our employees to continue in their professionalism and improve their craft. We have the utmost confidence that as we provide the appropriate level of support to our employees, our students and families will be the ultimate beneficiaries. And basically, our entire approach up on the hill this go-around would be to ask that question. How is this supporting our employees? How is this particular bill, or how is that particular funding mechanism geared towards that support? And that is the continual drumbeat that we are declaring, and continually reminding our legislators that this needs to be a session about providing appropriate support. And we because we love bullet points, and maybe that the 3 bullet points again are staying broad, not getting very specific, are professional and well-supported teachers, educational support professionals, and administrators will best support student learning. The JSD board will support legislative efforts that will empower our employees to continue to maintain their professionalism and improve their respective craft. And the JSD board supports funding flexibility and local control to best meet the unique needs of our district. So that's the majority of the committee's proposed approach to our legislative priorities this year. How does the rest of the board feel about that? Are we comfortable turning this into what we do moving forward? Where do we want to go? I'll open it up to discussion.
This is a rifle shot rather than a shotgun shot, and I like that. I very much like that. That speaks to me.
I'm just curious what the concerns discussed were.
What do you mean the concerns? The pressures?
So you said that the committee wasn't unanimously supporting this. I'm curious, what were the concerns?
There weren't any voiced. There just was no affirmative approval. And so I didn't want to assume a unanimous.
Okay.
And I didn't want to represent a unanimous thing. So I don't know what concerns there would be.
I can tell you from the discussion, I mean, the major discussion went along the lines of, do we have our laundry list? You know, do we have things like equalization, which is important to us, you know, WPU increase, you know, special ed, you know, things that we've talked about as a board, impact fees. Do we list all those as we've had in the past? Or do we just keep our focus on, we need to support our employees? That is our highest priority right now. That is what we want the legislature's help with more than anything. So that was the discussion in the committee, and we, you know, decided to take this approach. You know, the past several years we've had more of our laundry list approach, and just decided to take a different approach this year. Just so that we can get that very most important message out there over and over and over again, and not have it get lost.
Honestly, when I listen to that laundry list, it all seems to go back to what this is saying.
And that's what allows us to have, I believe, what will be much deeper conversations with our legislators. I think there'll be a much stronger openness from our legislators instead of, we need this, we need this, we need this. It's, if we can help them understand that everything education related this year ought to be through the lens of how does this support our educational professionals so that they can best provide the best possible service to our students and our parents, I think that's a win for us as a district and as an education community. So would you all like time to tweak this? We did it on a Google Doc and shared it. would you all want to have a chance to wordsmith it yourselves, add things to it? How do you want to proceed as a board to adopt these as our legislative priorities? Or are we not ready to adopt them?
I am pleased with the wording. I'm pleased with the message that this is sending. I feel like I need just a little bit more time to mull it over, but I don't.
Okay.
I want to make sure we've got teachers, ESPs, and administrators. Does that, I mean, there's no nurses and counselors. Would that fall under our administrators? I want to make sure that when we're fighting for our employees, that we don't become so narrow that we miss some group of employees.
Yeah.
And so I love that up here it says, to ensure our employees receive that support. And the paragraph seems fine. It's the bullet point that just raises a little bit of a concern for me, that now all of a sudden it's teachers, ESPs, and administrators. I want to make sure that we don't lose critical people in our rifle shot. Because I know the nurses, I know the nurses have stepped up tremendously and feel overwhelmed. They would be someone I would want to fight for in the legislation session, or psychologist or psychiatrist. That was my only question, but I'm very comfortable with the paragraphs.
I wonder if just changing the word teachers to educators might be a step in the right direction there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too, because that's typically what we use as the term educator, and that captures counselors,
Okay.
nurses, and others, correct?
Yes, to me,
Captures
that
nurses.
tweak, I would have no problem approving this right now.
No, we have plenty of time. The intent was to let this marinate for the next couple of weeks, and then on the 14th, have the official approval. So, yeah, we can make that change.
Can we go ahead and proceed with a draft of kind of what the mock-up of what this would look like, the actual document that we would hand out?
If the board wants us to do that, we certainly could move that direction.
I'm okay with that. I'm asking this question not to be negative towards this document, but what do you think that the identified items, how does that take away from this? I'm just trying to have a better understanding of exactly, because really, I hear what you're saying as far as being able to say, does that take care of our educators? Does that bill take care of this? So basically, never mind, I just answered my question. You're just broadening the scope and being able to not just have those identifying items.
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I haven't served on the Hill, so I don't, but I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a legislator who is continually being approached by people saying, we need this, we need this, we need this, we need this. And it has to get overwhelming. It has to get to a point where it becomes noise. And what we're trying to do is cut through the noise and not be part of that noise that is up there. And so if they know that there's going to be a constant drumbeat from the Jordan School District, that what we're looking for, what we're asking from every education bill is, how does this support our team who's delivering the highest possible quality education to our children? How are we delivering the service that we are in existence to deliver? And I believe that the more we can cut through that noise and have a steady, concise message, that that if every bill that comes up on education related and they're asking that question, I think we win. So it's just a different approach.
So I guess my only, and I wouldn't say concern is too strong of a word, but what if we are speaking individually to a legislator and they say, well, this is a broad scope, but what can we do? I would like to see the board have maybe not something that we put on the document, but have bullet points as to what we would like to express if they are coming to that. Because I think that we all have different ideas of
Right.
what can happen. And are you wanting us to communicate our own ideas, or do you want us to?
If you're making the initiative to engage with your legislator, you know what needs there are in the area. You know, I mean, I think the steady, we know if we have flexibility, we can better apply it. So, okay. I mean, absolutely. If you're making the effort to engage with your representatives, I mean, you're serving in the same community that they're serving and ought to be able to, within that framework of what's supporting, yeah.
Okay.
What I like about this approach is that it allows for more innovation. And I think when we're too specific, it's like we're trying to tell the legislators that we know best. And I like that this opens it up to say, you and I both know the needs. We also know the same ideas that have come up every year. What can we do to meet those needs?
Right. Yep.
I think the only question that would come up is, like, say something for equalization, we could get asked, does your board support, you know, this particular equalization bill? And do you feel like, I feel like this would say, yes, we would support it, but do others feel that way?
One, we have our past history.
Which we've always supported it in the past.
Yeah.
And
so,
anyone asking that question, I think, would know our past history.
Right.
and it would quickly say, yeah, let's talk about how equalization helps support all of our schools throughout the state. And it would be a very easy segue into that conversation.
I think our strategy is more than just, here's the document we're sending forth. We send the right people. I think it's in addition to anything on paper. I love that we have board members that go. I love that we have an associate superintendent that goes. I think there's a multi-faceted attempt to answer specific bill questions. I would hate to produce a document that would say, no matter what bill you produce, this document will tell you where we stand.
Okay, any other discussion?
So do we have the board's approval to move forward with doing a presentable copy and bringing that to the board on the 14th? Okay, we'll do that. That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Do we want to jump back to the CAFR or keep doing committee reports? Committee reports, okay. Finance Committee.
Yes, just a couple quick comments. We have been in contact with Chris Harding, our internal auditor, regarding that audit. He has made a lot of progress, but we have asked him to include current numbers in his report, and those numbers are just becoming available. So we will bring this information back to the board in January. We were also given an assignment to look at possible options for funding new construction school buildings, and that summary is included on board docs, and I hope that information is helpful. I don't know if we want to go into that in depth tonight or at a later time.
Can I ask a couple quick questions on it?
Sure.
just starting at the top, when we get to the least revenue bond
Okay?
options, is this assuming that we used cash for an elementary already, or is that cash being used and then least revenue bond the rest of it?
No, that cash is taken out. This would be a second option.
Just if we lease revenue bond the whole school?
Correct.
And then we talk about reducing summer projects. Is that, like, how many years would that be?
Until the bond is paid out.
So pretty much ongoing then?
15 years, yeah. And there are some key points down at the bottom if you need that information. Is that going to be helpful to facilities?
Yes.
Yeah, this is really helpful.
I had one question. I don't know where to put it on here, but I would love to see a chart of how the revenues that have come into the capital fund over the last 5 years, so that I could say, well, if we anticipate that same flow of revenue, what would a 2-year picture look like, or a 3-year picture look like? Because this is kind of a 1-year picture. At some point, I personally would love to see kind of capital fund balance capital fund revenues have kind of been this over the last 4 or 5 year period.
Okay.
I think part of the strategy needs to include not just a 1-year picture, but a 2 or a 3-year picture.
Okay. Okay. Anything else?
It's actually available in the budget book. Yeah.
Okay, then I'll have Mr. Young point that out to me.
Say budget book?
Yeah, it's in the budget book. It wouldn't have this year's,
That's fine.
but you could quickly pull that from the ACFR. I don't like that.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Oh, anything from facilities? Okay, I just as a reminder, there is a USBA Leadership Development Series webinar tomorrow night. It's at 7 o'clock. You should have all received an email with the link for that. And it is to go over the state school board's equity funding study that should be done. So that should be very interesting. Ben Leishman will be presenting. And then from Jordan Education Foundation, Christmas for Kids is coming up December 11th. There are still openings for chaperones if you're interested, and then donations are always needed also, but it is an incredible opportunity to take kids within our school district that are in need Christmas shopping.
How do we find out if we got accepted?
If you go on jefchristmasforkids.org and register, you should have gotten an email saying that you are registered, and then they'll send more information later. If you did not get that email, I would call the foundation office and ask.
Okay, thanks.
I just had one more reminder to board members, if you are interested, Power Up, if you're going to do that this year for USBA, is due tomorrow at 4 o'clock.
Oh, thank you for the reminder. Okay, any other?
Yeah, I do have one question, and I don't know where to fit this in the agenda, so I think this is, I'm wondering, I think we have a deadline to commit to our attendance to the National School Board Association conference, first part of December. Is that right? I don't think it's any mystery that the NSBA has taken some public stances and have walked those back. That would make it such that perhaps some members, and I'll just speak personally myself, I'm not sure I'm comfortable attending the NSBA National Conference. It's really the only way that I have to voice my displeasure at their position. I do regret not being able to get in on some of that training, so I'm wondering if the board is that the only conference that this board is willing to send members to, or if some of us are able to find a different conference, is that something the rest of the board would support, allowing for training and professional development to continue without support of the National School Board Association?
I'd be open to a proposal if you brought us one.
I think if a board member is interested in professional development or some kind of conference other than the NSBA, I say good.
Okay. That's two.
I'm very open to that because I cannot attend the NSBA convention this year. I would love to go to an equivalent.
And I'm open to that as well.
So is that enough that if, what is it just, does it need to be brought for approval to the board? How do we want to, obviously it would be, it would be an equivalent, we understand what the cost is for this, and so what would we want to do? Would we want to bring it to the board as a whole for that? How would we want to approach that?
Are you comfortable with? This is, we obviously haven't done it before, so new territory.
Yeah, it's very
Board
new
approval, executive committee.
I would be okay with it going to executive committee, and just as long as it's equivalent to the cost that would be for NSBA, I wouldn't have any problems with that going to executive. If it was beyond that, maybe a different discussion would need to be had, but.
So are we talking about coming up with something that the whole board attends together, or are we all going out on our own with it?
I'm not comfortable attending NSBA this year, but I don't want to prevent others from attending. And so that's all I'm looking for is if there's an opportunity that if I'm able to find, and if others who aren't able to attend or choose not to attend NSBA, I wouldn't want to mandate group attendance or not. So I think if I would just assume that it not be a group thing unless everyone chose. I don't know if you do both. I don't think that's in the spirit of it, unless the board wants to expand their professional development budget. So that, I don't know if that answered your question, Nikki, or not.
I'd love to hear other people's feelings on that too. I do think there's some benefit to doing something as a group and building those relationships. I'm not saying it has to be, but I'm curious how others feel.
I always appreciate the time together as a board at the conferences, but there are times where we don't have every board member participate. But I will still be going to the NSBA conference. I do find that it is beneficial to me, and I will be attending. So I think that it really is up to each individual board member as to whether or not they want to participate in SBA or another conference, as Mr. Young is saying.
Okay, so is everyone comfortable if someone wants to attend a different conference to bring that to the executive committee and letting them make that decision?
Yeah.
Unless there's a big cost discrepancy, and then we would possibly bring it to the board. Okay, I'm seeing mostly head nods yes. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Okay,
That's
thank
helpful.
you. Okay, any other committee reports or board comments? All right, we are going to go to special business item A, which is a recommendation to adopt the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021. And we will turn the time to Ms. Richards, who is the chair of our District Finance and Audit Board Advisory Committee.
Yes, thank you. State law as well as federal grants require Jordan School District to undergo an independent financial statement audit every year. This audit is basically a review on the annual comprehensive financial statement to ensure that what we are doing and reporting are appropriate and fairly reflected in our reports. Squire & Company, a local CPA firm, is who does these audits for us. As part of this process, Squire & Company will visit schools and review our financial processes. Here tonight from Squire & Company is, I only see one. Which one is that? Okay. Paul Winward from Squire & Company. And they oversee this audit process for our district. Both Paul and Kyle Green have previously met with the board's Finance and Audit Committee, where they answered several questions for us and discussed Jordan School District's finances. They are here tonight to give a summary to the full board and answer any questions board members may have at this time. So we'll turn the time over to Squire & Company. Paul? Paul.
Thank you. Kyle's not able to be here tonight. He had a family commitment come up that needed him to stay home and watch his kids. And so he's babysitting the 5 of them while his wife is off on a civic function. So glad to be here with you tonight. Thankful for the opportunity that you've given us to work with your management team and the administration and to perform these services for the district. As was mentioned, the audit is complete and the annual comprehensive financial report has been issued. Squire & Company is issuing a clean or an unmodified opinion, I almost used the wrong word, the old word, an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. We're also issuing an unmodified opinion in relation to the federal funds that you receive, meaning that we don't have any deficiencies to note or report to the federal granting agencies and no issues of non-compliance with relation to the federal funds that were received this year. The programs that we looked at specifically for that report are related to the Coronavirus Relief Fund, the Title I funds, and the Education Stabilization Fund money. So the coronavirus money and the Education Stabilization Fund money are both they're new sources of revenue to the district because of the coronavirus pandemic and the funds that flowed to the district to provide resources to mitigate the impact of that on educators and the students and staff and continue to provide that educational experience that they all need. In addition, then, we have one other report that we issue in relation to the state compliance, and we're also issuing an unmodified opinion in relation to that. So we have no items of non-compliance that need to be reported to any of the state agencies related to the funds that you've received from them, particularly the Utah State Board of Education and the minimum school program funds. that's the gist of what we do. Obviously, this document is a lot longer than the 5 or 6 pages that we can claim on our letterhead as being our opinions. But we want to appreciate and recognize Mr. Larson and Mr. Ellis and their team for doing a great job in preparing these financial statements and providing us with accurate information on a timely basis so that we can perform our audit procedures and be able to report to you in the timely fashion as we are able to tonight. I'm here to answer any questions if you have any of them, and I might defer to Mr. Larson or Mr. Ellis for in particular numbers, but in general, I think I've got a pretty good idea of where the numbers landed.
Thank you, and thank you for being here with us. Board members, does anyone have any questions?
Yeah. I notice your letter in the ACFR is dated November 9th.
That's correct, yes.
One, congratulations, that's a lot earlier than it has been, so thank you for speeding that up. Once that letter, help me understand the date of that letter. Is this whole ACFR ready at that time that you date that letter?
Yes. By the time that we issue our report, we've reviewed the report, read through it to find that all the numbers are accurate based on the audit procedures that we've performed. November 9th, as I remember, that was the day of the Finance and Audit Committee meeting, right? Yeah, so it's dated essentially as the date that the Audit and Finance Committee reviewed the ACFR. We discussed the numbers in detail. We spent about, it was an hour and a half or so, wasn't it? Going through some of the numbers and discussing some of the trends. Mr. Young, some of those graphs that you recommended we provided this year again, and had a good discussion. So yeah, that's the basis for our report and the date of those reports.
So I did not receive access to the report until the 23rd of November. Did other board members have access to this report prior to then?
Just what was reported to us, the committee.
Did you have the annual comprehensive financial
No.
report?
Did you give that to us, John? The whole thing?
Yes.
I thought we just had their part, but okay.
We had it in the email.
Yeah.
Okay, we did have it.
So I'm curious as to the thought process as to the delay. Our auditors, your team worked tremendously hard to get this report done in a timely fashion that has not occurred for quite some time. And yet there's a 2-week delay before the rest of the board has access to this document. What's the thought process to not providing this as soon as possible?
Mr. Larson, I'll give that one to you.
I don't know. There was nothing intentional about it. It was in the past, we've talked to the committee about it, given the committee a copy, a PDF of it, because it's not bound at the time. And then we put it together and we share it with the board.
But in the past, there's been a time compression.
Correct.
So
Yes.
the committee didn't have any other options in the last couple of years because there was only one meeting to approve it, and we were right up against it. For the first time in a number of years, we had 3 weeks from the time that the report was completed to the time that it needed to be approved, and we waited 2 weeks to provide this information to the board. And I wonder why that happened. Why, if the Finance Committee met on the 9th to answer these questions, how is it that it didn't cross anybody's mind to provide this information to the rest of the board? To give us ample time to study this?
There was no ill intent in
It's not a matter of ill intent. I'm not
Okay.
implying that. I'm asking, why wasn't that courtesy afforded to the rest of the board?
I'd rather not go into some details, but I know I was dealing with some things at the time, and my mind was elsewhere. And I'll apologize and say I think you make an excellent point, and we'll correct that in the future.
You mentioned graphs that you provided to the Finance Committee. Curious if the Finance Committee is planning on sharing those graphs and that information with the rest of the board.
They're on board docs.
They are, which one, is that?
It's the summary of services.
I jumped right into the ACFR, and that's all I had really time to study. Let's see, this, okay, the bottom one.
I started from the bottom and read up, so that was one of the first things that I saw and was very
Okay.
impressed with the graphs.
Yeah, I started from the top and just got consumed with that, so I'll be looking forward to looking over that information.
Yeah, that summary of services is a lot smaller of a document, Mr. Young,
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
the ACFR is, so.
Which is why I
To
started
get through
there.
200 pages, you weren't going to get to that 5-page document too quickly.
Well, again, I want to applaud you and your team and our internal team for 2 weeks may seem like not a lot of time. I can appreciate the tremendous efforts that you all went to be that on top of it, and well done to our internal team for being and if we can continue that and take advantage of that timeliness, that's wonderful. I do have a question, and this may be for Mr. Larson. Is it, sorry, give me just a second. The management discussion and analysis, is that who produces that? Is that you specifically? Is that your team? Is that Dr. Godfrey? Who's creating that narrative?
That's my team.
Okay. So on page 18, under general fund budgetary highlights, that first paragraph says, during the year, the board revised the district's budget. Budget amendments were to reflect changes in the program and related funding. The difference between the original budget and the final amended budget was an increase of $33.2 million, or 6.4% of general fund expenditures. So those periodic times that we amended the budget, we approved spending, an increase in spending of $33.2 million. Is that what that's stating?
Yeah.
That those 3 different periods where this board officially amended that's the overall cumulative effect of those approvals that we did.
Right.
So can you expound on the next sentence? The most significant change was the increase in instructional salaries and benefits for staff, as the effect of wage increase was originally underestimated.
This gets back to that, the problem we have in the budget of the unassigned balance going to 0, and so then the wages and benefits for instruction are increased to account for that having to go to 0.
So there wasn't an actual estimate done that didn't accurately reflect what the true expenses were. This was just, is this another way of saying that's just a placeholder and we're cleaning that placeholder out?
Yeah, we don't know what that placeholder needs to be until the final budget.
So and you just say the most significant change, so of that $33.2 million, what were the adjustments in the 33.2 million?
I couldn't tell you all of them, but I do know the largest one that I mentioned was over 20 million.
And that was the wage increases?
Yeah, for that unassigned balance.
And what were some of the other ones?
If you go to page 20, Mr. Young, you'll
Okay.
see that there's the general fund budget to actual report or statement. And so it shows the original budget on the far left column, the final budget in the middle left column, and then the actuals. So
Which
the
page?
vast majority of it is
Which
in
page is that?
instruction. Page 28.
28, okay.
Now that I'm on the right page, say that again.
The original budget, which would have been passed in June of 2020, it represents the original budgeted amount on the far left column. The final budgeted amount would have been the one that was approved in June of 2021 after a number of different budget amendments, Mr. Young, that you mentioned or were made throughout the year. But you'll see that those numbers correlate with how that budget was changed and finalized and finally approved in that June 2021 board meeting. And then the comparison then is against the actual results for the fiscal year and whether or not those differed from the final budgeted amounts.
Okay, I'm not sure if that gives me
the
specifics, but that is helpful.
You're not going to be able to correlate that directly necessarily, but you can see that the increase in the instructional line item is the largest one, $24 million. It went from 324.8 to 348.9, almost 349. So it is the largest increase of the total expenditure increase of that 33.2 million.
And all of that is from this budgetary necessity?
No, not all of it. Just primarily the largest one. The largest increase there is that budget of the unassigned. Beyond that, there would certainly be the true up of the matching, or trying to get the wages aligned. Because when we do the original budget, frequently we don't have the exact amounts. We're estimating that. And so there would definitely be a true-up happening later in the year as we do that, but I don't have that dollar amount in front of me or handy to go over that.
Okay, moving on to page 38. So I think it does a very good job explaining that the board is responsible for the committed and that that management is responsible for the assigned portion of the budget. This year we have assigned $7.8 to educational programs and $27 million to personnel. Can you break out what that personnel number is?
The personnel figure is made up of two components. One is the estimated amount of negotiated increases, which would be the $17.6 million, and then the other piece is a $10 million assignment for health insurance.
And why do you choose to set aside $10 million for health insurance?
There's some tradition here, but the main reason to set aside some funds for health insurance here is that the unassigned balance, like we were talking earlier, goes to zero. So if we don't set aside that 10 million here, then it goes to unassigned, which then creates a larger problem that we were just discussing.
For the budget.
For the budget, yeah. So the 10 million was pulled out as a way to say, well, we could reasonably do 10 million as a way to mitigate that challenge that we have for the budget and those differences, variances, and assigning it to health insurance, which is our most volatile one, made sense. So it could go to 0, it could go to 20 million. 20 million would certainly help in that variance issue, but that seems very excessive.
So that paragraph says, unlike commitments, assignments generally only exist temporarily. How many years has that 10 million been set aside?
Oh, I'm just going to guess since the district split.
Since the district split?
Yeah.
So what do you mean by temporary? Because that doesn't
Yeah.
sound very temporary to me.
No. So perhaps that description should change. And now you're back on 28 again? No.
38. The
38.
description of just the assigned fund balance. I think one of the things that Mr. Young, that this implies, this definition of assigned fund balance is defined in the standards as being relatively temporary. And while the district has chosen to assign a certain amount for health insurance benefits for a number of years, I believe that that's reevaluated every year and made a conscious decision of that. So the fact that it's temporary.
That creates the temporary nature of it, that it's looked at. Do we still need this? Does it still make sense? Yes, for the next year, we're doing that.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
That's helpful to know. Okay. The concern I have, and I think we've built some models that allow for board members to understand that 10 million is available.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that never gets clouded, that somehow the interpretation doesn't get in there that's not $10 million, that is more or less available for other things, particularly when we look at our self-insurance fund and we had another increase to that fund balance. So and we'll get to that as well. That's what I worry about with that, is that all of our board members, whether they serve on the finance committee or they don't, they understand the availability. And again, I believe we have put tools in place, if those get shared with the whole board, that make that clear. I do worry that some of that information isn't getting out to the rest of the board. And so that's my hang up with that.
So on one of the tools that you mentioned, the budgeting tools, I intentionally do not make assumptions about future salary increases within this area so that $10 million is shown there in future years. That's why I've done that on that tool, so it just shows $10 million on that line out into the future. I really debated, because clearly there's probably going to be something out into the future in that realm, but I chose not to for that very reason. I wanted that 10 million to sit out.
Well, good. And again, I just want to make sure that keeps going. On 39, and this may be what they've been doing from time immemorial, and I just picked up on this. In the description of investments, we talk about that the district takes its cash, that it's not in the bank account, and we put that with the PTIF, which is the state treasurer's office, right, to invest. Is that a pretty layman's term way of describing that?
Yeah.
But then it says the foundation, so the Jordan Education Foundation, invests with the PTIF and private funds through brokers. Have they been doing that consistently?
For decades.
And why do they make that choice to
They were wanting to establish a, and the term escapes me, but when a foundation sets up a permanent fund to
Endowment.
grow. An endowment.
An endowment,
An
okay.
endowment. And so because it was much more long-term, they had determined, well, let's invest that, because the point of it was to have it grow, and maybe at some time just use the earnings off of it and not touch the corpus. So that's where they made that choice. I actually don't remember when that occurred. That, I would guess 15, 20 years ago.
It's been a long time. I can't remember a financial statement that didn't have the foundation with some money invested in brokers and with mutual
Right.
funds primarily. The PTIF fund is primarily, very short-term investment. So you're
Very conservative.
Very conservative. In an interest rate environment like today, it's not earning much.
Yeah.
And when you have an endowment, the idea is that you want to have some investment return to provide the ability to leave the corpus intact, but also then to provide an actual scholarship, which is the reason the donor gave the money to the foundation in the beginning. I'm going to give you, just using numbers, $100,000 with the hopes that you're going to issue, let's say, 5 scholarships a year of $1,000 apiece, which means you've got to get a 5% return.
Yeah.
And having that money invested in the PTIF is never going to allow
Just
that
not
to
gonna happen.
So the foundation then has the vehicle, it has the ability under state law to invest outside of the PTIF.
And so is it serving that purpose?
You mean, has it had that return?
Yeah, has it created that kind of return and has allowed for it to live off of earnings, or?
I couldn't answer that tonight.
It certainly has returned something. I don't know that these financial statements probably are not in detail enough related to the foundation, since they represent such a small portion of the district, to be able to pinpoint how much of that return was then, what was the return on that investment in terms of the actual percentage increase.
Okay.
But, if you look at their fund, which is going to be on page 86 and 87. It's using a generic term in revenues on page 87 to show that interest was just over $50,000.
And that took a significant jump from the prior year.
Yep. But that's going to represent, obviously, that's interest and dividends and market returns. So it makes sense that at the end of June, we would have seen a significant change just based on the market returns that we were able to experience between July and June of this year.
All the other funds saw a decrease.
Yeah.
And the foundation saw an increase.
Saw an increase. So I don't know if that's something of curiosity for our foundation member to follow up on. While we're there on that page, just so the public has an understanding, what's the $236,085 transfer in?
That is a transfer in from the school district's general fund. It's roughly equivalent to the cost of their office staff, the people that they've employed, and their office supplies and other things that they have. And then the district transfers that in to pay for those. Historically, it's been the desire of the foundation to indicate that they are, every penny of a donation is used for the specific purpose of the donation. And so then the district donates the administration cost, if you will, to the foundation so that they could indicate that.
So that represents their staff. Is that a 2-member staff?
They've got, let's see.
This is for 2021. That just ended June of this year.
I want to say.
So not currently.
3.5. There's some part-time personnel there.
That's 3.5 people?
I believe it's 3.5.
Is there a rent element in that, or does that not?
The rent is not given. Rent, utilities, other like charges such as that, we don't allocate there.
You're right, okay. So are you aware of any donation that they receive that's greater than that 236,000 this year?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I can look it up.
Do I reveal the donor?
No.
Okay.
Are there donations that are?
I believe there was this last year, yeah.
There was a donation.
I would have to verify that, but usually about this time of year, there is a donor who steps up with a very large donation.
So would it be safe to say that the taxpayers of the Jordan School District are the second largest donor to the Jordan Education Foundation?
In recent years, yes. Prior to most recently, we were by far the largest donor.
We were by far the largest.
Yeah.
By a long distance.
Yes.
And now we're the second largest.
Yes, yeah.
I just think the taxpayers ought to be aware that that's something that they're contributing to. And I think it's a worthy thing to do, but the taxpayers are the contributor of that. So, page 44, going back now. There's a paragraph called Qualified School Construction Bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And it talks about a sinking fund and then says towards the end, the district transfers $562,500 annually into a sinking fund. How is that shown? And so the sinking fund had a balance of $6.2 million. Is that sitting on the capital fund's balance sheet and
Yes.
separately stated? Can you?
As I recall, my memory is it's combined with the lease revenue bond proceeds. But it's shown on page 24.
Page 24?
I'm sorry, Paul, if you...
Yep, no, that's perfect. 24 is great.
So
24, middle column, capital projects, second line item, investments restricted for debt service and capital outlay. So it's not called out specifically, the 6.2 million, but of the 13.9, 6.2 is that sinking fund.
Okay, so that debt service, that's the sinking fund. And so now, that will include the new lease revenue bond that we've taken on and the old one that was done in 2010. That's described in here, is that correct?
Yes. So you've got the old lease revenue bond, the QSKIB bond that has the $6 million. The additional piece is the remaining amount of the lease revenue bond that was issued in July of 2020 that had not been fully consumed because the project it was constructing was still under construction. So legally, it has to be shown separate as non-touchable resources, if you will.
And so is that $6 million, as Ms. Richards, as you presented this $26 million that's available for the for an elementary school in cash, is that $6 million that needs to be set aside, is that taken out of that $26 million?
I don't think it is, no.
You don't think it's taken out of that?
It isn't.
So the $26 million is in, the $6 million is in that number? Or is it taken out before that number is reported?
I don't have an answer, sorry.
It is in that 26 million. The sinking fund is not due until 2027. And so because that $9 million payment at that time will be due, until then, it has been reflected. Now, the board could, if they so chose, that fund has a target balance of 27 million. You could indicate, well, that 9 million, which would include the 6, is part of that 27. But it has not been designated that way yet.
So our calculations, when we say how much do we have available to build a new school, that is not being taken out, saying in this year we've got to have. So in essence, if a board, which shouldn't, but if a board came and said, we want to spend every last penny of our capital reserve this year, come 2027, we'd have a $9 million payment to come up with that we'd spent everything. Is that?
Correct. So yes, you said that well. 2027, we have to make a $9 million payment. And currently, that is not a separate pullout in our capital project discussions, since it's a few years away. We could do that, or we could designate that as part of the 27 million. We could pull that out of the 26 million. There's some options there.
I think that's important for us as a board to keep in mind. I'd hate to be, and I think we'll continue to be responsible with that, but as we look at this, especially as we look at, as things are compressing, we need to keep that in mind, that we've got that. And I appreciate that there's a sinking fund that's setting that up, but if we're operating under the assumption that we have 26 million, I mean, I love the fact that you opened up the 27 million. You and I have had numerous discussions on that, and so if that's where it's going to come from, then that's great.
Yeah.
But I think that's something we ought to keep in mind.
Because of the 27 million, you have options there.
Yeah. That's, yeah. I mean, you and I have had numerous discussions on that, so, okay. Well, I appreciate, again, all the efforts, and appreciate you allowing me to ask some questions here. I just, given the holiday and my work schedule, this was the opportunity I had to express these, and I'll only be around for one more of these, but again, I would appreciate a more concerted effort to get this into the hands of all board members as soon as possible. Okay. I think that, and I think our committee ought to be aware of that, and I'm sure it won't, I'm sure they'll make every effort to get this into our hands as soon as possible. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. And just because you're not going to be on the board, Mr. Young, doesn't mean that this isn't something that you can read every year and come to this meeting and make a public comment even if you'd like.
None of my colleagues will want to see my face at this meeting again, so.
We would welcome public comment on the CAFR. It might be a historic first.
ACFR.
Oh, that's right.
We gotta break our habit.
That's right. Old habits die hard.
May I take a couple minutes, or would you rather me wait for a minute?
I was just going to turn some time.
Yeah, do any other board members have questions?
Mr. Larson, yeah.
First of all, the name the acronym did change. That was a required change, that we change it from the CAFR to the ACFR for international reasons, to be mindful and respectful of others. And if you want more details on that, I'd be happy to share. But if it's okay, may I share some highlights of the report? I wanted to call out some things. I really appreciated the calling out of several items that Mr. Young did. I love the idea that the board is well informed about these things. And please, if you want to go through this document with me, I will be happy to go page by page. I kind of enjoy it. I know that's sick, but more importantly, I really want the board to understand this. So calling out a couple of things, page 24 is a highlight page. I really would recommend the board spend some time looking at page 24 and trying to understand that and the balances that we have and what those balances are for. Page 26 is where we show the operations and the differences. And the board had previously had discussions about that loss in the general fund, the 19.4 million. That's where you can see this on page 26. So I wanted you to see where you could go with that. The other funds on page 26, there's two of them that are called out specifically as major funds, debt and capital. Capital did have a bit of an increase this year of the $5.5 million, but if you recall, South Jordan City gave us their payment of $5.3 million. So capital was pretty even. All the other funds then are lumped, the other governmental funds are lumped in that other column here. And you can see they're pretty much even for the year. Page 30, though, I wanted to talk a little bit about the insurance fund, because it did. It had another, it's a smaller profit this year. But I wanted to just really point out that if you look at what caused that, look at the worker compensation premiums versus the worker compensation claims. There was a profit, if you will, of $1.5 million there. And yet, we showed a gain of only the $400,000. That means that the health insurance program had a loss of $1.1 million this last year. And just as a reminder to the board, we did reduce the worker compensation premium. So this coming year, I fully anticipate this to reverse. And I think that was just a really good move by the board to do that. And I think it addresses the overage, but it targets it specifically to what's where that problem is occurring. And then,
what efforts are made? Do we have much control over the administrative costs, the 2.1 million there?
Yes, in as much as we can bid out services and try to get a good deal on claims processing, but also the stop loss insurance that we have.
Is that under insurance? That's insurance premiums, though, isn't it? Or is that under administrative?
Oh, I believe, well, I'll have to double check on that, but I believe stop loss is in administration and other.
Oh, that's not the insurance premiums?
No, I don't think so, but I'll have to check on that to be sure. The other thing I wanted to just recommend to the board is at the back of this book, there's a section called the statistical section. I think I probably reference the statistical section more than any other pages in this document. No offense to the auditors or...
It is unaudited, so we take no responsibility for it.
But it has, what makes this section so fascinating, so good for me, is it has a 10-year history of all kinds of things, such as, and I'm just going to rattle off a couple of them quickly. Page 100, there's taxable values, how that has changed in 10 years. Our tax rates, how that has changed in the last 10 years. Page 102, the largest taxpayers. 104 and 105 have a great summary of the taxes levied versus the taxes received. Those are two of my favorite pages, actually. Page 113, construction in progress in the district, how that's changed over 10 years, and the number of, the percentage of minority students. 18 and 19 has the percentage of what we spend in each category and how that has changed in 10 years. 122, the number of meals served. 127, capital assets. And finally, 134 and 135 are great detail on the taxable value by different property types. These are just, I think they're fascinating, and I think they tell a great story. They also show some areas that our district struggles in. But if you want to spend some time in this, I'd be happy to go through it with anyone as well. And if I may, I also want to give a heartfelt thank you to the team that put this together, and to Squire and Company. The professionalism required to crank out this much work and have it in a professional manner is great. So I'll start by thanking Lisa Lestarge for her help putting this together and compiling the book. And then our accounting team, Natalie Grange, Jamie Barrett, Jason Mott, our senior accountant, and Dan Ellis, the director of accounting. And of course, who you have before you tonight, Paul Winward, and not here, but Kyle Green and their staff. There's a lot of work. I know what they go through, and a lot of it is behind the scenes that people don't see, where they're cranking numbers, calculating, and doing a lot of processes to see that things are done well and correct. And it's just a great honor to work with professionals that take pride in their work and want things to be reflected accurately. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Any more comments?
Yes, I would just like to thank all of the same people that John thanked. I appreciate all of the efforts and the hard work put into this. Not being a CPA myself, nor do I aspire to that, I just appreciate all of the hard work and the concise nature of this report. So thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On behalf of the entire board, thank you for your efforts. Mr. Larson and your staff, very much appreciate that. Mr. Ellis, thanks for joining us tonight. And thank you to the Facilities Committee for also your work. And I'm sorry.
Anytime.
Finance Committee, they both start with Fs. Thank you to the Finance Committee for your work on this also. Thank you. Are we at the end of our formal? Oh, we need a motion.
Yes, I would like to make the motion to adopt the report as the auditors have presented it to us tonight.
Do you want public opinion? It is a...
Yeah, I will be taking that. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Ms. Richards, second by Ms. Atwood to adopt the ACFR. Is there any board discussion to the motion? All right, and any public input? All right, we're waiting for you in a couple of years for public input to fill that void.
Not see my face.
All in favor of the motion to adopt the annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2021, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? All right, that motion passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, that's the end of our business meeting. We are going to go back and just quickly finish up our study session item,
We only have a closed session.
No, we just have closed.
and then we'll have a closed session. So I was going to do our study session item first, and then we'll motion to go into closed session.
What study
What
session
study
item
session
are
item?
we working
The
on?
summer projects, I was going
Daryl.
to report
Oh,
back.
that's right. I apologize. Thank you, sorry.
Okay, so we will go back to item E, the summer projects cost update. I did hear back from Mr. Robinson. His highest concern is that we live within our budget. That is a bigger concern to him. So as long as a project does not have an immediate need or put kids in danger, he's okay waiting a year, and would ask that we make the project of Harriman Elementary a high priority next year.
So he's a no on B.
He's not voting. He said he's not going to vote.
Put it on next year.
Just my request to refer to it as item B.
Thank you. Okay, so is everyone okay then if we move ahead with sending the previous items that we had determined out to bid?
Yes.
Okay. Great. I will take a motion to go into closed session for property.
I'll make a motion to go into closed session for property.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Atwood, second by Ms. Richards to go into closed session for property. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion passes unanimously. We'll go into closed session. Thank you for all of those who have joined us, the few that have stayed with us all night. We appreciate that. And for those of you that are online also, thank you.
I guess we can refer to it by name if we're not going to send it out to bid, so no big deal.
Okay.